The Thousand Sons Grand Coven is essentially an update of their Cult of Magic detachment from the Index, a detachment that, in its heyday, was busted levels of good. It's since been brought back down to earth, and in this new incarnation, serves as a psyker-centric way to run the army, with a load of that mystical flavor that you'd hope for. If you'd like to indulge in your own arcane curiosity and check out a sample list, head to goonhammer.com, link in the description. Detachment Rule: Kindred Sorcery. In your command phase, you pick one of 3 abilities to take effect until the start of your next command phase. You can only pick each once per battle. Imbued Manifestation. Add 6 inches to the range of ranged psychic weapons equipped by Thousand Sons models in your army. Psychic Maelstrom. Add 1 to wound rolls for psychic attacks made by Thousand Sons models in your army. Wrath of the Immaterium. Psychic weapons equipped by Thousand Sons models in your army have devastating wounds. This has changed from the Cult of Magic detachment in the Index. It's kind of a side grade in straight power, mostly because it's far more usable now than it used to be. You'd always choose devastating wounds before and never take lethal or sustained hits, and the abilities here are far more useful with how the army actually plays. Instead, you've got something more akin to the Space Marine doctrines from the Gladius Task Force, letting you be more reactive and versatile as the game goes on. As you only get to use each once per game, you'll want to save +1 to wound for your big go turn, usually turn 2 or 3 depending on the situation. That +1 to wound is more clutch now than ever, now that Magnus doesn't hand out any wound bonuses. There are a few ways to double dip and use these again, which we'll get to in the Enhancements and Stratagems. This rule generally pushes you more towards rubrics and characters, since those characters have the abilities you'll want to boost. Infernal Masters are the biggest ones, as they have very solid attacks that lack devastating wounds natively, and when attached to a unit of rubrics can reroll wounds to fish for them. These are some of the game's best enhancements. Unfortunately, you can only take 3. Lord of Forbidden Lore is a 6-inch boost to ritual range, which is especially useful on an Exalted Sorcerer on disc who can hurl spells from well outside his lone operative range. Incandeum lets an Exalted Sorcerer use Doombolt twice once per game. More damage output is always welcome, and Doombolt is one of the best tools you've got for dealing with hard targets. Umbralefic Crystal lets you pick up an unengaged unit in your command phase, then deep strike it in your movement phase. You can't play your dudes out of melee with it anymore, but it's great for zipping across the board with some otherwise slow units. Eldritch Vortex of Vitaf is a flat +1 strength and damage bonus on the bearer's psychic weapons. Windmill Slam this on your Infernal Master or Winged Demon Prince if you're feeling spicy. The stratagems here have changed substantially from the Index, so pay attention if you're coming over from the Cult of Magic. Psychic Dominion is best against, well, other Thousand Sons armies, giving your unit a 4-up feel no pain against psychic attacks and making enemy psychic weapons targeting them hazardous. It's made for mirror matches, Grey Knights, or certain Eldar builds. Destined by Fate lets you blank a failed save on one of your Psyker models, reducing incoming damage from 1 attack to 0. It only works on a Psyker model, meaning this is pretty much just for Magnus or the odd precision attack you want to block. Egotistical Power lets a Psyker unit pick one of your Kindred of Sorcery abilities to apply to their unit, even if you've already used it. It replaces any Kindred of Sorcery ability active for your army that turn, but you'll use it often, mostly to reuse Psychic Maelstrom for +1 to wound. Desecration of Worlds lets you sticky an objective with a Psyker unit so you can plant your flag and keep on moving. It's really useful in an army that's so elite and hugely important for keeping you mobile. Just be mindful you'll need a Psyker with your Zangor units if you want them to use this. Arcane Focus lets you reroll your Psychic test, including dice for channeling. If you absolutely need a spell to go off or your dude would otherwise blow up his own head, this is a great insurance policy. Devastating Sorcery lives up to its name, giving +9 inches of range to psychic weapons and letting those weapons reroll hits and wounds. The problem is at 2 command points, it's a big ask. The buffs in this detachment are geared towards your psychic attacks, which means characters and the aspiring champions and units of Rubrics and Scarab Occult Terminators. Of these, your best attacks are on the Demon Prince, Infernal Masters, the Exalted Sorcerer on disc, and of course, Magnus. Since you don't generally have devastating wounds on your psychic attacks anymore, you don't lose anything from taking that +1 to wound from Kindred Sorcery. This is also the detachment you'll probably want Magnus the most in. He gets the most from it, and the Destined by Fate stratagem is practically made for him. Building for this detachment, you'll want a few units of Rubrics and at least 1 unit of Zangors. You'll want some kind of character support for each Rubric unit, both to improve their durability and to give your characters rerolls on their wound rolls. That kinda steals the thunder of the Rubricae Phalanx, the other Rubrics and Characters detachment, but it would be a mistake to go too hard on Psykers when units like the Mutilith Vortex Beast, Forge Fiends, Predators, and Zangors are all right there and worth taking. Now let's go over the strengths and weaknesses. Psychic attacks. This is where you get the most bang for your buck when it comes to mind bullets. It's the detachment you want if you're running Magnus, and it's where you get the most value from Infernal Masters, Aspiring Sorcerers, and Exalted Sorcerers. Enhancements. Your enhancement options here are insanely good. Doubling up on Doombolt makes Incandeum a must-take, while teleporting with a crystal and buffing an Infernal Master are also great options to have. Sticky objectives. This is one of the only places where you'll find the ability to sticky objectives for Thousand Suns, and that's huge. Now unfortunately, there's not much here for non-Psyker units. One of your biggest issues with buffing psychic attacks is that you only find those on characters and squad leaders. That's a relatively small number of models in your army, and getting the most out of this detachment means loading up on characters, which can mean fewer great support units. Single-use abilities. You'll need to carefully plan Kindred Sorcery so that you have access to your best abilities at the right times. +1 to wound is the most useful of them broadly, and the one you'll often be bringing back via egotistical power. Defensive buffs. There's not a lot here to help you defensively. Yeah, you have the ability to blank an attack, but it's just for a single Psyker model, limiting its effectiveness. As a replacement for the Index detachment, Grand Coven has a lot to offer. There are some great effects here, and getting +1 to wound and devastating wounds in your army's best psychic attacks is a great pair of effects to have. The ability to sticky objectives and reroll your manifestations are both big helps, which can keep your army running along at peak efficiency. As a generalist detachment for Thousand Suns, this one's pretty good. If you still thirst for more forbidden knowledge, why not head over to goonhammer.com to read more about Magnus's dustiest boys. And if you'd like to join our own coven of weirdos, subscribe to our Patreon for Discord access, bonus podcasts, and more. Lastly, consider subscribing to us here on YouTube. It's free, it's easy, and you don't even have to ring that MF bell unless you really want to. I've been Corvidai McPyri, proving that I read at least one Thousand Suns novel. Thanks for watching.